היה לו לב טוב, עין טובה, מחשבה טובה והרבה הרבה שמחה. הרבה 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 שמחה. התבוננת על מקומו ועוד מעט ואין רשע.
Shalom everybody and welcome to the Yishai Fleisher Show, broadcasting live from Judea to the world. You're a part of it wherever you are. And shalom and welcome to you, Maka Fleisher. How you doing?
Hi there. You had a busy day.
Yes, I was out.
You're still here broadcasting the show.
Yes. I was out. I was out in the field today with the I-24 crew, and we were filming a film about a feature about the Israel Biblical Highway. And we went to 3 spots. We went to Tel Beersheva, which is a beautiful ancient city that's still there with an ancient well that still has water. And really, we're talking about a city probably from the tribe of Shimon that was within the tribe of Judah. There's like a small tribe of Shimon that is within big Judah, and you know that's what they're thinking. And we went from there. And it's got there were Gentiles there, non-Jews from Indonesia,
who were visiting, and there was also American, Bible lovers out there reading the Bible, and the Indonesians blowing the shofar. Right. Wow.
And I said to my crew that was with me, I'm like, this is what I want you to film. People are coming for the Bible.
Right.
People are coming for the Bible.
That's
and
the draw.
Right. It's an asset.
Have nice beaches.
They're fine
but
beaches.
But that's not why people are coming. Cyprus
next door has just as good beaches. It's fine. By the way, I had some great Cyprus grapefruit juice that you brought. It was from Cyprus. It's tangier than the American grapefruit juice. There's like a tang on the front tongue. Anyway, so there was that
acidity of the soil. Or something.
Right. We went from Beersheva to Hebron, my home turf.
Yes.
And he did amazing drone footage of the Maharat Machpelah, and the Maharat Machpelah was flapping all these flags that it has right now. It was nice.
Wow. Maybe he'll share that footage with
That
you.
was good stuff. And then finally we went here to the Ari Fold Observatory.
That's nice.
Observation point, overlooking from one of the tallest points in Gush Etzion, overlooking the Baracha Valley, the Blessings Valley right below us, from the book of Chronicles 2, Emek Yehoshaphat. And also, not Emek Yehoshaphat, it's the King Yehoshaphat with Emek Bracha. Emek Yehoshaphat is actually in Jerusalem. And it was great.
That's really nice.
And there's a lot going on. And we're doing a lot right now to get ready for the last of the national holidays, Yom Yerushalayim.
Yes.
Tomorrow, big flag parade. I think it's going to be great. And then afterwards, and the news media keeps saying to me, like, where's the ministers going to be and what's going to...
I find this, like, they are trying so...
They need a war. They need conflict.
To squeeze a conflict out of a thing that literally happens every year and is totally fine.
You should tweet that, by the way. Let's tweet that. I want you to tweet that. I want you to be like, I'm going to tweet it.
It's like the American Weather Channel. We've talked about this before. It's like, it's so stormy out here. Everybody go and make sure you get water. And then it's like, it rained. Like, just, okay, like there is a march, which means it's like a Jewish and an Israeli national happy and proud day. And therefore, there's always a possibility that people who are very uncomfortable with the idea of Israel existing or being proud of itself may come out of the woodwork, just like they can come out of the woodwork on any given Thursday at any given hour to do any kind of act against somebody. And maybe it'll be at the Jerusalem parade, but probably not, because usually every single year the same discussion happens about the Jerusalem Day parade. And are they going to allow it? And are they not? And is it going to be in the Muslim quarter? And is it not? And how many police that they brought out special for this? And they're going to have police horses and this. And it's like, yes, you mean there's going to be like a big march with a lot of people in Jerusalem, and Jerusalem is a security tense place generally, and so it will continue to be. Yeah.
Remember, I think there was a football movie called Any Given Sunday. I think there was. So this is like Any Given Yom Yerushalayim.
Yeah.
I think I might call the show that. Should I call the show that? Is that going to be funny?
I don't think people will get it.
Any Given Jerusalem Day.
A lot of people probably did not see that movie.
I didn't either. I just remember the ads for it. Okay.
But the point is, with God's help, it is going to be fine. And people go and they take their children and everybody wears blue and white and they wave their flags. It was like, I remember when there were these, lahavdil, there were these like judicial reform protests. Yes, judicial reform, no judicial reform. And there were going to be protests in Jerusalem. And it was like, is it going to be violent? And is it going to be scary? And people were like, don't take your kids. It's scary. And I'm like, the first protest, I was like, golly, maybe it's scary. And then I only took one of our kids. And then it was really chill and nice. And then the second protest, we brought all of our kids because it was perfectly nice the first time. And guess what happened? Nothing, except for a really nice time with a lot of nice people, with a lot of Israeli flags. Yes, there was not a lot of cell phone reception, but that was about the worst of it.
Okay, so that's right, Maka. And so Jerusalem Day is coming, but actually all that we've talked about it, we haven't even for a second focused on the fact that it's Jerusalem Day.
That's right.
Like that's the big thing. And it's a holiday of physical, spiritual liberation, the connection between heaven and earth. Yerushalayim, ki ir shechubra la'echdav, Jerusalem, a city that connects it together, and it was meant to connect together, bring people together. Lirot ulihiraot, to see and be seen in this great city. Maka, we have a great show lined up for everybody today. We have a lot of little segments, a lot of fun things. And speaking of Jerusalem Day, let's hear our beloved Rabbi Shimshon Nadel. He's a Kohen. He's a great Kohen that we have in our life. And he is also the rabbi of Jerusalem's Kehilat Zichron Yosef. And here's his kind of second part of the discussion of the roots of Yom Yerushalayim. So here's Rabbi Shimshon Nadel.
Shalom Yishai. Recent months have seen division, discontent, and strife here in the state of Israel. The city of Jerusalem, literally the city of peace, has been the site of so much conflict, plagued with protests and demonstrations. But is there room for diversity in Judaism? Is there room for a multiplicity of voices, for pluralism? At the beginning of the book of Bamidbar, the Torah describes the encampments of the tribes of Israel in the wilderness. The camp was divided into 4 formations, each containing 3 tribes. Every tribe had its own banner or flag, representing its unique quality. As the verse states, the children of Israel shall encamp, each man by his banner, according to the insignias of their father's household. In fact, the Midrash describes in great detail the colors and symbols of each flag. But as we all know, banners and flags and symbols can be divisive. That is why, according to Rabbi Yaakov Kamenetsky, the tribes are instructed to create their flags after the inauguration of the Mishkan, the tabernacle, because the Mishkan was a unifying force, a central location where Jews of every stripe and color can join together in their service of Hashem. There is room in our tradition for different symbols and banners, for diversity, so long as we can come together under one larger tent. Interestingly, the Torah commands that the Mishkan be covered with the skin of an animal called a tachash, a symbol of diversity. The Talmud and Tractate Shabbat describes this elusive creature. It only existed during the days of Moshe, when the Jewish people were in the wilderness. It was a kosher animal, had a coat of many colors and a single horn on its forehead. Rashi, in his commentary, writes it was a type of animal that existed only at that time. It had many colors, and therefore Targum renders it in Aramaic susgona, for it rejoices, sus, and prides itself with its many colors, givanim. The Mishkan, the focal point of Jewish worship, is covered with the skin of an animal that rejoices in its many colors, that rejoices in its diversity. Like a magic tapestry, the Jewish people join together in their service of Hashem in the Mishkan and celebrate their diversity. We are indeed a diverse community. It is our challenge, but it's also our strength. This is the unique quality of the Jewish people. It's part of our fiber, the very fabric of who we are. This week, we celebrate Yom Yerushalayim, Jerusalem Day. We express our gratitude for the gift that Hashem gave us during those 6 miraculous days in June 1967. And just like the Mishkan, Jerusalem, the city, is a unifying force. The psalmist writes in Psalm 122, the built-up Jerusalem is a city that fosters togetherness, for there the tribes ascended, the tribes of Hashem, as a testimony of Israel to give thanks to the name of the Lord. It is here that all of Israel would ascend to the Holy Temple to serve Hashem together. As the Talmud states in Tractate Yoma, Jerusalem was not divided among the tribes. It did not belong to one specific tribe. It belonged to all of them. Each and every tribe had a place. Each could call it home. But by its very nature, Jerusalem is also a diverse city. Even a brief visit to the Kotel Plaza attests to this. One trying to pray is barraged by the sounds of competing minyanim. You have Sephardic chanting, Hasidic shouting, Carlebach singing, each group expressing their devotion to Hashem through the voice of their unique liturgical tradition. And what appears to be a dissonant cacophony is in reality one glorious symphony. Jerusalem, much like the banners and flags of Bamidbar, represents a colorful unity. It is a city of diversity and togetherness all at once. And that's just the way it should be. Wishing all of the listeners a Yom Yerushalayim Sameach from Jerusalem.
Thank you, Rabbi Shimshon.
Very interesting.
Great stuff, and it's so fun to have Rabbi Shimshon on our program. And he's, he brings it down. And I want to tell you, if there's a Jew that's celebrating Yom Yerushalayim, it's Rabbi Shimshon. It's the ingathering of the exiles. It's Shivat Zion, and the heart of it all is Yerushalayim. Always has been. Although for Hebron, we actually also celebrate the next day, which is Hebron Liberation Day.
Right. Because the day after they came for Jerusalem, they came for Hebron.
Right. And what we're talking about here is the 6-Day War. We're talking about the 6-Day War that we still live with as a miraculous war that informs. I think I'm going to do stuff right. I think tonight, tomorrow, Malka, let's put on for the kids. Let's put on some 6-Day War videos. I think I'm going to put on something for the kids.
Harabait B'Yadenu.
Yeah, but the whole thing, because I think the kids will enjoy it. I'm going to look on the internet for some 6-Day War movies. One of the stars of the 6-Day War was Rabbi Goren, who was, kind of a righteous man, a warrior.
Kohen Milchama.
Yeah, Kohen Mashua, a priest of war, both a general and a top chief rabbi. Just an amazing man. Maybe also another thing we'll do tomorrow is listen to the audio that I have from him speaking on a 45-minute interview in Hebrew. But for now, let's listen to Ben Bresky with his history moment about the life and times of Rabbi Shlomo Goren.
This is a moment in Jewish history. Rabbi Shlomo Goren was the first chief rabbi of the Israel Defense Forces, and in 1967 participated in the liberation of the Western Wall and Temple Mount in the Old City of Jerusalem during the 6-Day War. Born in Poland, his family immigrated to the land of Israel in 1925. His family helped found Kfar Hasidim near Haifa, where Goren grew up. He entered high-level yeshivas at a young age and published his first book on Torah scholarship at age 17. He joined the Haganah and, after Israel's establishment, the IDF, where he was appointed chief rabbi, a position he held for 24 years. There he instituted kosher food, times for prayer, and introduced ways for both religious and secular soldiers to interact. He arranged for army bases to have a synagogue, but made sure attending services was not mandatory. In one instance, he recruited religious soldiers to dig trenches on Shabbat because he felt it was necessary to prevent enemy invasion. From the War of Independence in 1948 until 1967, Jerusalem was divided, with the west side being under Israeli control and the east side, including the Old City, being under Jordanian control. Jews were not allowed to visit during those 19 years, and holy sites such as the Hurva Synagogue and the Mount of Olives Cemetery were desecrated. On June 7, 1967, the Israeli army succeeded in liberating the Old City of Jerusalem.
Especially when he entered into the Jordanian sector of Jerusalem and to stand before the Wailing Wall. To world jury, a deeply emotional occasion of great historic importance, the swiftest, most overwhelming victory of all time.
Rabbi Goren was at the Western Wall and on the Temple Mount, where he gave a prayer of thanksgiving, broadcast live to the entire country. At the Western Wall, he blew the shofar and held the first Jewish prayer service since 1948. The following is a partial translation.
הכותל המערבי וירושלים עיר האלוהים.
I am speaking to you from the plaza of the Western Wall, the remnant of our holy temple. Comfort my people, comfort them, says the Lord your God. This is the day we have hoped for. Let us rejoice and be glad in his salvation. The vision of all generations is being realized before our eyes. The city of God, the site of the Temple Mount, and the Western Wall, the symbol of the nation's redemption, have been redeemed today by you, heroes of the Israel Defense Forces. By doing so, you have fulfilled the oath of generations. If I forget thee, O Jerusalem, may my right hand forget its cunning. Indeed, we have not forgotten you, Jerusalem, our holy city, our glory. In the name of the entire Jewish people in Israel and the diaspora, I hereby recite with supreme joy, Blessed art thou, O Lord our God, King of the universe, who has kept us in life, who has preserved us, and enabled us to reach this day, this year in Jerusalem rebuilt. The next day, the army was preparing to enter Gush Etzion and Hebron, where Rabbi Goren had studied in his youth until the 1929 Hebron massacre. Rabbi Goren and his driver took a jeep to catch up with the army, which they assumed were already in Hebron, but when they arrived, they found themselves alone. As they passed the empty streets, they saw white flags of surrender hanging from the windows. Thus, the city of the patriarchs and matriarchs was liberated without firing a single shot. Rabbi Goren arrived at the cave of Machpelah and became the first Jewish person to freely enter and pray at the holy site in 700 years. In 1972, he was elected Ashkenazic Chief Rabbi of Israel, where he presided over many controversial cases during his 10 years in the position. One such issue was that of Miriam and Hanoch Langer, brother and sister who were declared mamzerim, children born to an adulterous relationship and thus unable to marry, except to another mamzer. It was initially argued that the sibling's mother was still married to her first husband when she got married to her current one. Yet Rabbi Goren's investigation revealed that her brief marriage to a non-Jew was not performed under Jewish law. The issue arose as to whether they were ever technically married and whether their separation constituted an official divorce. Rabbi Goren convened a private committee of 9 rabbis who ruled the children were not mamzers and could proceed with their respective weddings. And thus 27-year-old Hanoch Langer married his fiancée and 25-year-old Miriam married her fiancé in a joint ceremony which elicited much publicity. Rabbi Goren's handling of the affair gained fierce scrutiny from his fellow rabbis. He later founded the Idra Yeshiva near the Western Wall of Jerusalem, and in his final years headed the Har Bracha Yeshiva in Samaria until his passing in 1994.
Defending Israel, Eretz Israel, and capturing Eretz Israel, maintaining our sovereignty in Eretz Israel is considered as P'uach Nefesh of the nation.
That includes Yehuda and Shomron?
Includes, of course, we include Yehuda and Shomron, includes the borders of Eretz Israel.
During his life, Rabbi Goren was a colorful and controversial figure whose heroism during the Six-Day War is still influential today. This has been a moment in Jewish history. My name is Benjamin Bresky. For more information, you can email me at bbresky@gmail.com. Thank you to Yishai Fleisher. Thank you to all the listeners. Happy Jerusalem Day and Shalom.
Ben Bresky, thank you very much.
That was great.
Rabbi
Rabbi Goren, a national treasure.
Indeed, he is a national treasure, Malka. And Rabbi Goren loved the Temple Mount. and went to the Temple Mount and liberated the Temple Mount, liberated Hebron, you can continue that process of liberation by going to highonthehard.com, and they will get you on the Temple Mount. They will help you get on the Temple Mount. Thank you, highonthehard.com.
I just want to say, though, what you just said about continuing the liberation of the Temple Mount, that's not just like...
Can we call the show that Continuing the Liberation?
We could.
The Continuing Liberation.
Of Jerusalem.
Of Jerusalem. Yefemod, I like that a lot.
Because that's really true.
Right.
The 6-Day War was a real mile marker for the Jewish people, and it really was the moment in which we finally were reunited with so much of our precious city. But the struggle over Jerusalem and the questions surrounding Jerusalem are questions that we have not fully answered yet as a nation, that we have not come to concrete decisions about the future of Jerusalem, about what Jerusalem means for the future of the Jewish people. And so when you do these things, like, you don't have to go onto the Temple Mount to fight for Jerusalem. You don't have to. And I know that there are some people who don't believe that you should and all this. I don't think this has to be a source of contention between people. There are certainly rabbis that you can rely on in order to, yes, go on the Temple Mount, absolutely no question. And if you want to listen to a rabbi who says you can't, then you can also. But the idea of the ongoing liberation of Jerusalem is a real thing, and that is really happening. And I think that people should take upon themselves a little bit to be part of that continued liberation of Jerusalem in whatever way it is that speaks to you.
You know, Malka, speaking of what you're saying, I've been thinking about a little new segment for the show.
Oh, really?
It's so funny though. I was like, I've been doing radio for like 20 years, and all the time I'm like, new segment for the show.
That's cool though.
I come up with stuff all the time.
It's because the show is alive.
Yeah, it's alive. And I was thinking to myself, meditations with Yishai, like a little meditation. I want us to pause for just a second right now.
Are we doing a meditation right now?
Let's just do a little tiny meditation corner, okay?
Okay. I would want to give a caveat. If you're driving your car,
meditations,
perhaps you do not want to do this.
Meditations is another one. You don't have to go into a trance now. You're not going into a deep sleep.
No, binaural
right.
Waves or whatever those things
beats.
are called.
I'm not binaural beating you. I'm not, and I do not have a little gold, a pocket watch that I'm trying to get you to pass out. Here, what I'm just trying to do is trying to get us into a deep thought moment, and I want you to know that my whole life is focused around this moment, which is, blessed are you, God, King of the universe, who returns his presence to Zion. That's like my number one thought. That's the number one thought in my head.
That's really nice.
Thought for you is that when we see in the Bible that God reveals himself through fire or through great revelation, most of the time people fall flat on their face and prostrate themselves and bow before God and awed by his presence. You can either lose your life, like get eviscerated by the fact that you are really beholding something you shan't behold, right? Which is God's presence. Or the next best thing is don't lose your life and just bow down fast and be like, God's presence is being revealed, and it's also joy and awesomeness that you are this close to seeing God reveal himself in this world.
Who are we referring to now?
Human
I'm not
beings,
sure I've experienced that.
Human beings in the Tanakh,
yes.
God says to you, cannot see my face and live.
Right.
So if there are people like the 70 Zakanim, the 70 elders and stuff that beheld too much.
And their faces melted off.
No, they didn't face them melted off. Later on, they died because God punished them because they saw too much and were not as enough of fear and trepidation and also glee and joy of the great gift of being close to God. My point to you is very simple. In the Shemona Esrei, in the 18 benedictions prayer, when we say, blessed are you, God, King of the universe, who brings his presence to Zion, who returns his presence to Zion, what is the next thing we do immediately? Modim anachnu lach.
Ah, nice.
One of the things I think is that when we see
prayer service
God's presence,
in which you bow down.
When we see God's presence in Zion revealed, we bow. And that's why the Modim is right after that phrase. God in our time is revealing himself in Zion. He is revealing himself in Zion. That is the time that we're living in. We're living in a time of revelation. It is not a coincidence, therefore, that we're also living in a time of disinformation and cover-up and fake news, because God is revealing himself in this world, and the light is being covered up with all kinds of dross, with all kinds of garbage. But in truth, there is no greater revelation of godliness in this world than the ingathering of the exiles and the flourishing of the land of Israel, and I add, and the building of Jerusalem. That is the greatest revelation. And so let us look at Jerusalem. Let us behold God's presence in this world as he is ingathering his promised children, the promise that he made to the forefathers and mothers through his children in our time is God's revelation. Let us bow. Let us stop for a second and bow. Let us stop for a second and point ourselves to Jerusalem. And when we pray, and I say this to Jew and to the International Torah Congregation, the Gentiles, and I say this here is a commandment that I think that every Gentile should observe if possible. It's a small one, it's an easy one. You're not going to get in trouble with anybody. When you pray towards Jerusalem, pray towards Jerusalem. All of us, all God-fearing people should pray towards Jerusalem and be grateful that we are chosen to be living in this generation of God's revelation in our time in Zion. It is complex, it is messy, it is a million things, but it is happening. It is happening. Like it, don't like it, understand it, don't understand it. Don't worry about it. Learn to love it, learn to fear it, learn to have awe and trepidation and love and all of those feelings. And next time, let us bow. Let us bow towards Jerusalem because God is bringing his presence into this world.
Well, Yishai, that's really beautiful. Thank you for that. I enjoyed that meditation. There were no biurnal beats.
I was not beating anybody biurnally. That was very good,
but that was a good thought. Thoughts with Yishai. I like that. That was a deep thought. And we have I think another addendum to that miracle is that there are people around the world who recognize this miraculousness, meaning to say, like, it's quote unquote easy for Jews to realize that they're being like magnetized back to the land of Israel is something incredible. But there are people around the world who are looking and they see it too. And we have a very special guest who came to visit this week who sees and who realizes that the return of the Jewish people to the land of Israel is something really significant.
That's right. Back by popular demand, Ryan Belarus, our good friend and native rights activist, indigenous teacher of indigeneity, it was with me here at the house, and we had a pretty deep conversation, I think, about the challenges of the indigenous identity, knowing that we're indigenous, and knowing how to answer our haters. Here's Ryan Belarus. All right, folks, you are listening to the Yishai Fleisher Show. Back by popular demand is the one and only Ryan Belarus. Ryan, native rights activist, indigenous rights activist, teacher of indigenous identity, and friend of Israel and our friend as well. Ryan, thank you so much for joining me today on the show and being back here in the land of Israel.
Thanks for having me. And, I love this place. It's getting harder and harder to leave.
All right. Well, we got a lot of stuff to talk about, and I'll enumerate them because there's a specific amount of things that I want to discuss with you today. Here they are. You've spoken in the past on the show about the 5 fingers of native identity.
Yeah.
I want you to spell it out a tad more again for the folks.
Sure.
Let's get through it.
Sure. So it's language, land, culture, blood, spirituality. So each of those fingers, so to speak, informs a particular part of your identity as an indigenous person. So when they all work together, you have a functional and an authentic indigenous identity. So if you don't have, if you're missing one or two of those, it becomes problematic.
Let's get through it. Let's do it. Language.
Sure. Okay, so every indigenous group has their own language, and it's usually a language that is very it's from your ancestral land, right? So that language is important because there's certain concepts that you can't explain in English that only make sense in your own language.
Sure.
And I've heard my friends that speak Hebrew say the same thing. So I'm speaking.
That's true in every language. I can tell you as a trilingual person that like every language has its own unquestionable its own thing, and that has to do with the character of the Slavic people in Russian and of the American people in English or the British people in English, and certainly the Hebrew people in Hebrew.
Absolutely,
no question.
So that would be your language.
Earlier, you were sitting with my kids, and you were telling us about turtles. That in your native language there is no word for turtle.
Yeah, so it makes no sense to us because we don't have turtles in our territory. So why would we have a word for turtle? So it just makes no sense. But yeah, so that's language, and then obviously land. Like you have to have a connection to your ancestral land. That's makes perfect sense. If you're an indigenous person, you're not indigenous to everywhere. You're indigenous to one specific place.
Mm-hmm.
So it's site specific. And so then culture is all of the different cultural manifestations, you know, the way you dress, the way you govern your people, all of these different things.
Mm-hmm.
That's the culture. And then blood is the one that makes a lot of people uncomfortable because, you know, obviously blood quantum is a very problematic concept. It's like, you know, if you don't have enough native blood, then you're not really native. On the one hand, it's problematic because they have been trying to, you know, breed us out. But on the other hand, you do have to have some sort of blood quantum. Otherwise, you end up with people who had one native great-great-great-grandparent, and suddenly they think that they're supposed to be speaking on our behalf. So it is problematic.
So peoplehood, basically. You can't just kind of. I mean, maybe you can convert or something like that into a peoplehood.
Yeah. So like look.
But bottom line, we don't have to go into the discussion about how little.
Yeah.
The bottom line is blood.
Yeah. Exactly.
The bottom line is a peoplehood.
Exactly.
So we have language.
Yep.
Land.
Yep. Culture,
blood.
and then what I call the thumb, because it's like a hand, the thumb is what makes everything work, right? The thumb is probably the most important one, and that's the mode and method with which you deal with the creator, right? So
spirituality.
Some people call it spirituality, some people call it religion. Whatever your spiritual mode and method is,
mm-hmm.
It has to do with your people. So like if you ask a Cree person who's never been forcefully converted to another religion, they will tell you, I'm Cree. It's no different to them. You ask them their identity, they're a Cree person ethnically, and they're a Cree person spiritually.
Mm-hmm.
Much like Jewish people. Like
right.
Unless a Jewish person's been converted.
By the way, the Druze are also like that.
Yep.
And I'm amazed sometimes when people are like, I don't understand. You guys are people or a religion? And I'm just like, why is that hard for you to understand the concept that we're people with a religion? Exactly. Why is that even tricky? I guess people are so.
Well, it's outside of the realm of their experience, right? Because Europeans, you could be a European and be any one of a number of religions because it's not really intrinsic to their identity. And the main religions actually come from somewhere else. So Christianity actually comes from the Middle East, right? Islam comes from the Middle East. Buddhism comes from the Far East. So you have all of these different religions in Europe. So they don't really see because they're not.
But it wasn't always like that. It wasn't always like that.
For a long time,
I'll give you an example about a place that I think is a little bit like Israel, but nobody ever kind of agrees with me or likes the comparison. But I think there's a comparison between the French and Israel, not the Jews, the French and Israel. Why do I say that? Because here you have a national country, a nation state, which is yes, it always did. It always was willing to swallow up Morocco and a Tunisia and this kind of thing. But still, though, there was a French culture, French language, a French nationality, and you kind of had to conform into that if you wanted to join. But then with time, they also were like French and democratic, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then with time, it started becoming eroded, and their culture started becoming eroded. They also were basically a church. They had a kind of like, national religion. But with time, all that stuff started becoming eroded. And then the jihad kind of swept in and started taking over that country, and also liberal ideas. First, maybe there's some of those guys are some of the authors of liberal ideas, but certainly liberal ideas crept in. And then, as I always say, first comes progressivism, then comes jihadism. Like first you weaken your national identity, and then the jihad creeps in, right?
Yeah. So. Okay, I'm going to push back a little.
Yeah, go ahead. That's
right?
It's not even pushing back because I'm throwing it out more like
Okay.
Yeah.
So the thing about the French is that they're not an ethno-religious people. right? So the problem is when you try to make that comparison, one of the reasons that they're not really very firm in their actual identity, and one of the reasons they're struggling so hard right now, is because they don't have that strength in identity. When you're an ethno-religious person, that means your religion is tied to your ethnicity. It's part of who you are. You didn't choose it. It just, that's what it is, right? The thing is, in Western Europe especially, religion is more of a thing you choose. And with the French in particular, they were Catholic, right? So yeah, they had a national religion, but it was Catholicism, and it came from somewhere else.
Right.
And it was not inherent to that land. So when you're part of your identity becomes something that is not really meant for you, right? Like that's the thing. Christianity itself is a proselytizing religion. Anyone can be a Christian.
Right.
Right. And they encourage that. Whereas an ethno-religious tribal people, we don't encourage conversion. We're okay with adoption in rare cases.
Right.
But we don't really want everyone trying to worship the creator the way we do. Right. Because we're not imperialist. We're not trying to push our religion. That's why you don't see religious wars that are started by ethno-religious tribal people. You see religious wars started by proselytizing people. People that want to spread their religion, even if it means spreading it by the sword.
Right.
The problem with the French, they had what we call, it was actually the founders of liberalism, like liberal thought. And then they became very egalitarian. And then it was all about everybody's equal and blah, blah, blah.
And post-modernity, a lot of the French philosophers were the main promulgators of post-modernity. If you don't know what that term means, basically it means that all things are equal, that all opinions are equal, and then it's a short slide into all feelings are equal, all identities are equal, and maybe my identity is very fluid. Maybe it's not so far away. If you say all things are equal, then it's not so far to say, well, yesterday I was a man, today I'm a woman, because I
feel like it.
Because I feel like it, and that's equal to the reality that was yesterday.
Exactly. And that's, I think, like what you're seeing in Europe right now is a function of that, right? You're seeing people that went, like my dad says, they got so liberal their brain fell out, right? Like they got so, everything becomes about liberalist principles. But the funny part is,
so open-minded that the brain fell out.
Exactly.
That's the right.
Yeah. But it's weird because
but it's not that the brain falls out. See, that sounds a little, it sounds a little, hyperbolic, like right wing. It's the real point is that you got so open-minded that your identity fell out.
Yeah.
Because all things became equal. Because a child no longer had, it was like an olive. It was like a grapevine that had nothing to cling to.
Yep.
There was no base there because all things are fluid. All things are equal.
Well, they basically turned tribalism into a dirty word.
Right.
Right. And the problem for tribal people is when you make tribalism a dirty word.
Okay.
You're attacking us directly.
All right. Now, I want to get to something that I've been trying to share with other people, so far also unsuccessfully. And that is that how does a tribal person understand an incursion of another tribe into their land? Why am I asking this? Because I sense very clearly that here in the Middle East, the Jewish people are a type of tribe, and the Arabs are tribes.
Yeah.
And what we're seeing right now is a dastardly incursion into our tribal lands by the Arabs. And they're subsuming our land and our identity and our right to this land through a very clever mass effort that involves criminality, land theft, bullying, and at the same time, a perception of naturalization, a perception of they're the ancestral peoples of this land, and in fact, the criminals are the victims are actually the criminals. You need to say the Jews are the criminal class according to the narrative. In reality, and the problem is that amongst Jews, and I dare say many of my beloved listeners, I don't think there's this clarity. Here we are, a tribe with borders. And this other tribe is pushing in, and we are not pushing them back out.
Yep.
And even this kind of talk is like right on the edge of comfortable and uncomfortable.
Absolutely.
And how do I convey to my brothers and sisters who have lost a certain sense of our tribe versus their tribe? Now, another caveat before I let you answer is, I come from a Russian background. The Russian background, while they did not know much about Judaism, what we call in Jewish Yiddishkeit, okay, they didn't know much Yiddishkeit.
Yeah.
They knew ethno-identity.
Absolutely.
They knew
pushed into them.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
It was in the passport. You could be a Russian, but you were a Tatar or a Chechen or whatever it is.
Yep.
And you were Jewish ethnically. You were told you are another.
Yeah.
And so the old school Russian Jews were like, I may not like that black hat Jew, but him and I are family. We are a tribe. We are a peoplehood.
Yeah.
We're an ethno group. We're an ethnic group.
Yeah.
And but without that consciousness, with the American Western, there is no ethnic group. It's all the same. How do I tell them, whoa, hello, warning lights, this other tribe is doing an incursion. Do you not see that? And do you not see that we're weakening to this tribe's incursion? Let me, I'm asking you now as an indigenous person, is there a consciousness of this other tribe trying to break in?
100%. And I think that part of the problem is that when I first started talking about Jews as an indigenous people, I was really careful and really overt. I said, look, first off, you have to understand that if you're going to use this argument, it's a real argument. It's true. It's the truth, right? But that's not why you should be using it. You should be using it because you should be internalizing it. You should be understanding that you're part of an ethno-religious tribal people. That speaks exactly to what you're saying, because most Americans have completely lost that. They're American first and everything else last, right? So you have people like Rashida Tlaib, who's a congresswoman who speaks more. If you go on her Twitter timeline, it's 98% about Palestinians in Gaza. There's very little stuff about her actual people that she's supposed to be representing.
I got to tell you something. She's my enemy, full on enemy.
Yeah.
And I made a tweet this week saying that there's really no difference whatsoever between fighting Islamic Jihad, Palestinian Islamic Jihad, and fighting Rashida Tlaib. They're on the same team. They're part of the same thing.
100%.
But I respect her as an enemy. Yeah. She is just a formidable.
She's firm.
Yeah.
Look, the one thing you have to give her props over is she's consistently pro-Palestinian. She doesn't make any bones about it.
Right.
She doesn't pretend she's anything else.
Well,
right?
she does pretend.
Well, every now and then
she does pretend that she doesn't want to destroy Israel, which she does.
Yeah.
And she also wants to pretend that she doesn't want to turn America into something it's not. She wants to be she is a liar. She is not a liar in the sense that
but she's open about her lies. She's
right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah. So but the reason I'm bringing that up is because, so you see her, she's acting in a tribal manner.
Right. Absolutely.
And look, I'm not saying we have to lie. The good thing about our side is that the truth is on our side, right?
Yeah.
But the problem we have is that we have a lot of people who are profoundly uncomfortable with the idea of Jews as a tribal people.
Right.
So
why are they so uncomfortable?
Because they want to be like everybody else. And now if everybody else has a religion,
if you want to be like everybody else, there's really no point in having a Jewish state.
Exactly.
Let's just make it that simple.
100%. Might as well just fire it up. Just be like everybody else. Then.
Yeah. And assimilation is always an option.
Yep.
And living in Brooklyn is always an option, or whatever. It's like take the option. That's fine. But the Jewish state is clearly.
Look, it goes back to the question: do you want a Jewish state or a state for the Jews?
Well, because in the end, if you just want a state for the Jews, i.e., assimilation, so then there's America. Then there's no point in having a Jewish state.
Exactly.
In Israel, that sticks out.
Yeah. See, and that's the thing. You have to understand.
But I got to get back. I got to get you back to the question.
Okay. So
because I'm talking to you. There's a problem.
Absolutely. So here's how I explain it when I'm talking to people. Right. You guys are indigenous. You're indigenous. There's no doubt. You meet all of the signifiers. It's not a debate. It's not an argument. Right. The problem is how you're perceived. Now, you have a sacred place. It is the most sacred place in the world for Jewish people. Now, me as a non-Jew, when I see Jews downplaying the importance of that, and
of the Temple Mount in Jerusalem,
and not just downplaying its importance, but literally saying we would give it all up for peace.
Right.
As an indigenous person, I obviously I'm still a human being. I'm going to project how I would feel about my sacred place. Now that leads me to one of two conclusions. Either you're not really indigenous, or you just don't understand anything, right? The importance of a sacred place is vital, not just for the religious people either. It's an ancestral thing. So when I see Jews treating the Temple Mount with disrespect and not caring about it, it's bothersome. And like you just said, so how do we get these people to understand one tribe is pushing on another? They are literally doing everything they can to assert themselves on your ancestral land. So when I'm here, I hate hearing that stupid call to prayer. And I know it's going to offend some people. I don't care. Whatever. I don't like it at 4:00 in the morning when I have to hear some guy strangling a cat. Okay? I don't like it. And I don't think it's right. And if you guys were a little more tribal, you wouldn't let them do that. You would say, listen, you can have your call to prayer, no more electricity. You don't get to amplify your voice.
No, I have a simple solution for it. It's an app.
Yeah.
It's an app on your phone.
Yeah.
You want to have an app on your phone? Allahu Akbar all the way.
Yeah.
No problem. The app is on your phone.
But I shouldn't have to listen to it at 4 in the morning.
No, and we all understand that the so-called call to prayer is a call for domination.
Yeah. But that's the thing. You understand it. You understand it. There's Jews here in Israel that understand it, but there's a lot that don't. I've had friends, when I talk about it, like I've posted on Facebook, like I'll wake up at 4 in the morning and I'm like, some guy's strangling a cat outside and I can't sleep. And my friends will be like, I think the call of prayer is beautiful.
You know, but by the way, I do want to tell you, as a Middle Eastern person, right? It is not offensive in my ears.
No.
Because to me, it's like some kind of like it's you know what I mean? It's 1,500 years of it. So I hear it. There's a part of me that is not bothered by it, right? But when I and in terms of a call to prayer moment, of a spiritual moment, but in terms of what it really is
and what it's
really saying, ethnically, tribally, because it's not saying just a religious message.
No, it's saying I'm in charge, right? And I tried explaining this to some of my Jewish friends. This actually,
by the way, it literally means God is one, but then Muhammad is his prophet, i.e., your Torah is fake.
Exactly.
100%. If you don't understand that, then you don't understand.
Yeah, you don't understand
what they're saying. Yeah, you don't get it.
And the thing is, they're asserting themselves. That's what a lot of people don't understand. So, like this stuff with the Temple Mount, right? Like, I had to explain this to a friend of mine in Tel Aviv the other day, and it really annoyed me because he couldn't understand why the Temple Mount stuff offends me so much. And I said, listen, when a colonizer takes control of your sacred place, as an indigenous person, you should be upset by that, even if it's somebody else's, right? You see that and you should call it out because it's not okay. It's even worse when they try to assert themselves. So if you only recently now, I'm finding out that Jewish people can start to go up on the Temple Mount more. I'm seeing that is changing slightly. It's still nowhere
with the help of a lot of years of work.
100%.
And also my good friend MJ heads up an organization called highonthehar.com. They are sponsors of the show as well. And they help people go up properly in the traditional tribal way to the Temple Mount, highonthehar.com.
Yeah, I'm going up tomorrow.
Oh, good for you. With MJ?
No, with David Haivri.
Oh, great.
So, yeah. So, but what I was
great tour guide. One of the guys that I recommend when people turn to me.
Yeah, he's a good dude.
Yeah, for sure.
He just showed me my favorite shawarma places. So, but yeah.
You're on the shawarma tour.
Yeah, the shawarma tour.
Yeah.
But yeah, the reason that it's so vital, and the reason I think that a lot of American Jews drop the ball, like I said, they want to be a religion because that way, a religion is something you don't really choose, a religion is something you choose. Ethnicity you don't choose, right? So to them, if they want to be just like their Christian friends, well, then their Judaism really isn't a way to live their life. Their Judaism really isn't a whole ideology. It's only a way of interacting with the Creator, right? And that's what they want for their Jewish identity it's only because then I'm in control. I am in charge of all of it. If you actually have to acknowledge the fact that this is just who you are, it's your blood.
Right.
Suddenly it makes people uncomfortable. It's your tribe. Because then,
then history is the boss.
Yeah,
and
then you have to acknowledge some uncomfortable truths.
Right.
One, like the fact that your neighbors are not so nice.
Okay, so that brings me to the second topic that I wanted to talk with you about. We already did 2, so it's going to be 4. Okay. So the second so the first one we discussed was these 5 pillars of indigenous identity. A second thing we talked about, and I'm still not satisfied with what you said, and I'm satisfied with what you said, fine, but like, I'm struggling to try to communicate what's going on here to people, and which is an ethnic takeover.
Yeah.
An encroachment is the right word. It's an encroachment.
It really is. It's like when there's two native tribes in the old days, if they were nomadic, one would just leave, right? But the problem is in the old world here.
How would you signal to another tribe, hey, I see what you're up to, and I'm not letting you take this water. I'm not letting you take this, these animals. I'm not letting you do that.
So in the old days, what we would do is we would literally just ride up to their tribe and be like, hey, we're here already. You got to go, right? And before contact, that was fine because there was so much space and we were mobile. In the old world, you guys, that quit happening very early on, because in the old world here, you guys have less resource constraints because you were agricultural people, pastoral people, so you raised your own food. You didn't have to hunt or gather.
Okay.
Right? So now with those kinds of borders, those are more firmly set borders. The problem is most of the Jewish people I know are uncomfortable. Like if you look, who are the people that are pushing the no borders in the United States nonsense, right?
Right.
Like who are the people that are pushing the egalitarian?
But that's exactly it. See, when you push no borders, it's like you don't understand the movement of peoples.
Yep.
You don't understand, for example, that immigration is one of the pillars of jihad.
Yep.
It is literally one of the pillars of jihad stated. That is a textbook.
Yeah, that's one of the
pillar.
ways they do things. Yeah.
Right. It's like, and if you don't know that, it's almost like if you don't see the movements of peoples in history and understand the conquest. I just want to mention that my good friend Jake Bennett had me, watch a show on Netflix, and it's called The Last Kingdom.
Yeah.
And one of the reasons why he told me to watch that show is exactly for this. He's like, let's study tribalism again. Let's understand, what an encroachment is, what how to fight back on these things.
Yeah. It's an important.
I'm not recommending the show. I am not recommending the show.
Yeah.
And viewer discretion is advised. But I just mean to say that I really am. I'm concerned that people don't understand what large swaths of movements of other tribes.
Well, it's a problem.
Yeah, it's
right?
a problem.
And I think that Jewish people in particular, you have to understand that your neighbors don't like you very much. And yeah, it's nice that you have all these different new agreements, the Abraham Accords. That stuff's great. But at the same time, what is that old saying about if the Jews put their guns down?
Right.
Then
they'll be annihilated. Right.
Right.
That's right.
And I know what you're about to say because my dad says it. Good fences make good neighbors.
That's right. But that's what people don't understand about the Abraham Accords. Where do they come from? They come from people being like, "Ooh, that Israel's strong."
Exactly.
And therefore we should sign a deal with them because they are strong.
Yeah.
That's the way that works. It's not like, oh my gosh, we have a deal, so now just like let it all down. No, it's like, well, you're strong and you might protect us from Iran, and you are strong, and you will supply food and defense for this area because you're strong. And people like poo-poo tribalism. They poo-poo it. And yet what's so funny is you can't escape it anyway. Certainly here in our region, you cannot run away from it. Okay, so it brings me to topic number 3. I get Google News alerts for my name, like most people.
Yeah,
and I just got one today. It's an article in a publication that I don't know called Quantara.de, Deutschland. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't know what Quantara stands for. I really don't. But it is some kind of it's about Middle East stuff. And they have here an article with a guy that's been a little bit following me, and it's called "Flirting with Anti-Semitism." And it says, here's the byline. It says, not the what do you call it? The second headline: far-right politicians cite their support for Israel as proof that they are not anti-Semites. Yet the openly fascist members of Israel's government have more in common with Hungary's Viktor Orban than they do with diaspora Jews. And then at the end of the article, they quote me. One second, I'll get it. And they quote a tweet of mine. And this tweet is a picture of me with Viktor Orban.
Yeah.
And my tweet there says, at CPAC Dallas, great meeting with modern hero of nationalism, leader in the defense of Europe against jihad immigration, and ally of Israel, Hungary PM Viktor Orban. And that tweet went very far and wide. And they even explain. At last year's Conservative Political Action Committee conference, CPAC in Dallas, Texas,
where he was a keynote speaker. Orban met fan and fellow CPAC speaker Yishai Fleisher, the international spokesman for the Jewish settlers in Hebron. After Fleisher tweeted a selfie with Orban, he was asked about the Hungarian prime minister's alleged anti-Semitism, to which he responded that he did not care. Yishai was not a diaspora Jew, Fleisher said, but an Israeli. As a fellow sovereign, quote unquote, he saw Orban as an ally in the fight against, quote, the globalist agenda which seeks to force open borders and erase national identities, end quote. The growing rift between Israel and the Jewish diaspora could not be better described. In short, what they were saying is what I was saying, and this guy was very surprised when I told him that, was like, I see Hungary as a fellow nationalist state.
Yeah.
Like you described earlier, non-imperialistic, holding on to its land.
Yeah.
With speaking its language, its calendar, and its calendar, and its coinage, and its all the things. Holding fast against incursion from this other tribe jihadism.
Yeah.
And I see them as an ally in this nationalistic, tribalistic way of thinking in our world. Their anti-Semitic past, which I now realize is much more just xenophobia than it was anti-Semitism per se. They just don't like others in their land.
Yeah.
You know? But the point is that today, the European, the Eastern Europe, Poland, Hungary, they are more aligned with the way we're thinking, which is nationalism, family, anti-jihadism, anti-progressivism, strong classic traditional identity.
So here's the thing, Yishai. Those people, the people that are pushing this no border stuff, and the people that are pushing the, egalitarian, everyone's exactly the same and equal. Like, don't get me wrong, equality for everybody, that's a nice goal, right? I get it. It doesn't mean we have to all be the same. The problem is it's really easy to make those arguments when you control 98% of the Middle Eastern landmass, right? So of course they don't want borders. Of course they want everyone to be the same because they want everyone to be like them. The problem is Israel doesn't want to be like them.
Wait a minute. You're confusing me a little bit.
What's that?
Who's the they?
Well, that would be the Muslims.
They don't want open borders and all that stuff. They just use the progressive front.
But if you they can make the argument, like if you listen to the Muslims when they talk, right? To them, the open borders to them means caliphate, right? Open borders to the actual liberalist people means, there will be open borders, everyone's free to go wherever they want.
Right.
But to the Muslims, they're like, oh yeah, everyone will be free to go wherever they want under the caliphate.
Right. I personally think that the nexus between progressivism and jihadism is a useful idiot nexus, meaning to say they either use them as useful idiots, but today I understand that progressivism is a front, a Soros-style progressivism is a front to dismantle identity, to dismantle masculinity, to dismantle borders and identity, and then right after that progressivism comes the, real toxic masculinity of the jihad, which comes and crushes you.
Yeah, and by that time there won't be anybody to.
You have no defenses.
Yeah,
right.
Because all the masculine men have been turned into women.
Right. Well, I always tell people that when I'm talking about masculinity, I don't mean males.
No, I know what you're talking about.
I mean a posture. Yeah. A posture, a defensive posture.
100%. Listen, part of the problem we have with all of this stuff, with the culture war, right, is that most of us didn't even realize that we're in a culture war.
Right.
Most of us have no clue. And I get annoyed because people will say to me really dumb stuff like, well, you're an Indian. How come you don't support open borders? And I literally think to myself,
why do they say that?
Because they think, well, all native people should be supporting open borders because we should be against anything that is nationalist, right? And I always tell them, think about it. Why do you think an Indian would be against vast immigration? Why do you think that might be? Maybe because that's what happened to us.
Right?
Like we've read this book, we didn't like it.
Right.
So I tell them, listen, like, do I support immigration? Absolutely. I think controlled immigration is vital for the growth of a state. But do I support unchecked immigration? Like, Trudeau brought in, I think, 650,000 Muslims, but he wouldn't bring in 1,000 Syrian Christians. Why is that?
Why is that?
There is something not right there. Like there is, and look, you could make conspiracy theories, but that's not really a conspiracy theory. That actually happened.
So what is the reason?
I think the reason is that they're, look, now you're putting me on the spot. I genuinely think that there's an issue with the Islamification of North America. I think it's a problem. I think that it's scary. As a native person who's already gone through one forced conversion, like one wave of forced conversions for our people, I don't want to see that again.
Do you see the language that you're using? You see, that's what I'm talking about exactly. It's in many ways, it's a visualization. It's like you can see the flow of immigrations of peoples and then ideas that come with them and the pushing out of other peoples. When you're not conscious of that kind of flow in history, then you don't understand the power of another tribe pushing in, and especially if you don't care because you don't have a strong identity in the first place.
Exactly. That's the problem. Like, you know what I always think is interesting, and it's one of the reasons, it's one of the reasons we're friends, right? It's one of the reasons that I have so many Jewish friends in Israel that I'm really close to, because you get me. You understand. Like, when I'm talking about the vital nature of identity, I'm not just talking to hear myself talk. I'm talking to somebody that understands it and can put those same concepts into their terms, right? And I think that most Israeli Jews have a very strong sense of identity, but like you said, FSU, like former Soviet Union Jews, you had that pushed into you. Like, there was no doubt that you were Jewish, right? Now,
ethnically Jewish.
Yeah.
Ethnically Jewish.
So like the spirituality part was
right.
they pretty much stole that from your people. Like,
right. They don't know Judaism, Yiddishkeit. They don't know that.
But they know Jewish identity.
Right.
Right. And it's funny because, like,
do they even know Jewish identity exactly?
They know their version of it. They know
they're a peoplehood.
Yeah.
Which is a very and I tell people all the time, I'm like, you don't understand. A lot of my nationalist so-called right-wing thinking comes from the fact that I'm a Russian Jew.
Exactly.
And I'm just like, this is our land. This is our people.
Exactly.
And not their land.
And you understand having the background that you have, where your people, like a lot of my friends that are super nationalists, Mizrahi. Why do you think that might be? Well, maybe because they lived as dhimmis. They know, they got a real good taste of what it means.
Oh, Sephardic Jews. Okay.
Mizrahi.
Right.
So, like, if you come from the Middle East and you lived under that system,
right,
you probably don't want to go back to it.
Right.
So it's one thing to say, look, we're a Middle Eastern people and we live in the Middle East. It's another thing to say, well, we should live under Islam, right? And like I say, I believe in a 22-state solution. They have 22 states and they can keep
That's
them.
right.
Right? You have Israel and you should be keeping it.
But if you spoke that way, the thing is about their tribalism is that in many ways they respect that.
Yeah.
If you assert it.
Yeah.
When you don't assert it, they don't respect that.
Exactly. And then they think, oh, well, you know what? We push these people a little bit and they give up.
They give up.
Right?
They
and
give up on
dangerous.
And we trample over their holy spot. They can't. They don't do a thing.
Yep.
They in fact they enforce our jihadist laws on their own people.
Yeah. I know, it's crazy.
It's crazy talk. Speaking of that, and here's my final question for tonight. Final discussion point with you for tonight, anyway, is a tweet that I put out. You spoke here in Gush Etzion a few weeks ago. I took a picture of you and I put it up.
Yeah, I saw that. It was nice.
I wrote, indigenous rights activist and Métis native Ryan Belarus speaks in Judea tonight about Israeli Jews, a group of indigenous peoples who have achieved national self-determination and who now need to fight the fake white colonialist occupation narrative.
Yep.
Fine.
Accurate.
So far, so good. This thing was viewed 121,000 times, and I want to read some of the comments. I can read just a few because they're indicative.
Yeah.
Ryan, my man, not only is this is from Mo Eunice. Not only is nobody ever taking you seriously with a Raptors t-shirt on, but you basically standing on Palestinian soil. I'm not even going to be like it's all Palestine at this point, but a simple Google search on the West Bank should have showed you that your hosts are not legally permitted to throw that big validation exchange party you were all having. I still don't understand in what world is a Métis native opinion any relevant about anything remotely related to Palestine. And he goes on. Okay.
Yeah, you know Mo is Lebanese, right?
Oh, is he? I didn't know that. I didn't.
I know him on Facebook.
So that's one. Let's see. White European colonial settlers came, invaded, looted, and ethnically cleansed the natives. Similarly, Ashkenazi Jew came, invaded, looted, and ethnically cleansed indigenous Palestinian people. Okay, wait 1 second. Another guy named Slane writes, famous native indigenous Israeli sports team, the Toronto Raptors. He looks very native, right? White man born has lived all his life. Toronto is indigenous in Palestine. You can't make this blank up. You're not indigenous. You're literally colonizers who stole the land, says somebody else. No. Belarus from France wants to fight the fake white colonialist occupation narrative. LOL.
That was one of my favorite ones, actually.
Yeah, and there's just a lot of them. There's just and it doesn't stop. There was the bad guys got a hold of this. Oh, there's this thing that a lot I hear. Indigenous people from Khazaria, Brooklyn, and Poland, or Russia, like you, says about me.
Yeah.
Let's see. Let me just read one more. In which trailer park did you find this garbage? A white dude telling other white dudes they are indigenous. LOL. This guy is indigenous to his local diner in Toronto. Please leave my Toronto Raptors out of this. Send that guy, that's me, back to Moldova. So anyway, we're talking about a massive amount of comments here.
Oh yeah, I thought it was hilarious. So I don't know if you saw, I made a Twitter. I've been off Twitter for a while, partly because I have a stalker that annoys me and Twitter doesn't ban him.
Why not?
I don't know. I've reported it, and apparently, even though he uses pictures of me that are photoshopped and uses my name, it's not impersonation. So Elon, if you're listening, smarten up. But yeah. Anyway, I made a Twitter so I could reply to some of those because I was like, "Are you freaking kidding me? Like, what, do you want me to wear a feather and a loincloth? Like, Indians can't watch basketball? Like, what the hell is this?"
Right.
And look, I make no bones about it. I'm pretty pale.
And you're wearing that same Toronto Raptors shirt. It's become part. Yeah. It's become part of your identity now.
So I started wearing the shirt in my other talks just to piss those guys off. Because listen, like they don't get to tell me what an Indian is or what they're not. Like they're just ridiculous. And you want to know the real truth of it? The thing that they're the most pissy pants about is the fact that somebody like me looked past their nonsense. Because most Native people, especially in like the activist-y world, they just hear that bullshit about, oh, it's the poor, pitiful brown people and the white people came and took all their stuff, so you're just like us. Anybody with even a third grade education can read. When he made that comment, that really pissed me off, by the way, about how, oh, that's Palestinian land, you can Google it. I'm like, really? You mean like the 3,200-year-old mikveh in Alon Shvut that's like literally around the corner? Like Palestinian land? You know the way of the patriarchs that's literally right here that runs through this whole area? Like, you're going to try and tell me, like, how many times is Palestine in the Bible again, bud?
Right. And how many times is this land in the Quran? Whenever it's mentioned in the Quran, it's mentioned as our land, Yeah. So it's like, and you can't win with these guys because they're not, arguing in logic. But my real question to you was really not, I talk to high school kids, I talk to college kids.
Yeah.
In many ways, they're just trying to survive out there, In many ways, they are not yet hardened activists. It's not like the state of Israel gives them a lot of support.
Yeah, it's true.
So, you see this army of hate.
Yeah.
You like that? I like that phrase because that's what it is. It's like an army of hate out there.
Yeah.
And I'm comfortable being the lightning rod of this thing. But like,
yeah, me too.
You're like, but how do our young people face up to this stuff? You know what I mean? How do they face up to this stuff when they don't feel the Jewish organizations backing them up?
Yeah,
they don't feel that the state of Israel will give them real answers. They'll give them fluffy answers that actually subtly justify the counter narrative.
Yep.
So you're just stuck in a tough place. And I guess that's why it's good for people like you and me to be out there, and Malka as well. But like, how do we deal with this? How do we deal with this? Do we put our head down, let the storm pass? Do we fight every one of them? Do we keep putting out just positive stuff and keep being a light? Like, how do we deal with the army of hate that is amassed against us? And that's the other block of the conflict. One conflict is what I was talking about before, which is tribal conquest, tribal incursion onto the land. But then there is the narrative war. And that narrative war has a counter narrative. It uses what's called
outrage porn to get people in, and there's just oodles of hate. How do we defeat that?
So one thing that I've been doing since I came to Israel this trip, I made a TikTok, and I'm not a TikTok kind of guy, right? Like for me, I always make fun of TikTok because it's mostly girls in bikinis dancing around. I'm obviously not going to do that. But what I did was I made 3-minute videos of Israel everywhere I go, right? And so what I noticed was at first I got lots of idiocy like free Palestine, right? Like that would just be the comment. So I treat those kind of comments the way you should. I mock them. So I'll say free Palestine, I'll take 2.
Right. That's right.
Or I'll say free Narnia, like that. And then I don't reply to them anymore because then they'll go into their big spiels and it's just drive-by trolling for me. It's like they're going to waste all their time. I'm not. I already made the video. But what I noticed is really actually pretty cool. My native followers on TikTok are watching the videos and liking the videos. And they're not liking the comments, right? Like the comments, when they get liked, it's all the same 5 or 6 bots that make the comments and then like each other's comments. But the native people that are watching my videos, they like the videos, and then some of them even send me DMs and they ask me questions, right? That's the best way to fight for me. I mean, my audience is pretty narrow, in all honesty, like especially on TikTok. It's almost all native people because my TikTok was almost all about Métis stuff, about native rights in Canada, explaining Métis history, stuff like that. And I didn't talk about Jewish stuff until I came to Israel. And the only reason I did that is because I'm here. And since I'm here, I figure why not? I'll make a 3-minute video. And so like I make a 3-minute video at the 3,200-year-old mikveh at the 12-mile marker, right? People saw that, native people, and they were like, wow, that really is Jewish land, right? Like, and it's not something you can really argue. There's your eyes. You're seeing it yourself. When I was at the beach in Nahariya, I took a video, and one of the idiots actually put in the comments, those are oppressed people, and I hope you're enjoying partying on their beach and blah, blah, blah. And so I took the video and I said, did you watch the video? Do those people look like they're scared? Do they look like they're oppressed? They're running around, jumping and yelling and having fun on the beach, right?
These are Arabs.
Yeah. So you have to choose now. Like, do you believe your eyes or do you believe the bullshit? Right? So I make the connection. And then my native friends, they watched. And one of them actually messaged me on the TikTok DMs and said, wow, like I thought it was supposed to be like they were all oppressed and stuff. And I was like, did they look oppressed? Like, for real. You have a choice. Now, do you believe your eyes or do you believe what everyone tells you, all the idiots in the comments, right?
Yep.
And so I've done that all through Israel. So I went to the Kotel. And one of the coolest comments I got was a native person wrote, that place just seems like a really neat place, right? That's all they wrote. And then some idiot wrote, it's stolen land. And then they said, what's on the other side of that wall? And I said, a mountain, a sacred mountain. And then, of course, they were like, no, it's stolen land. And I was just like, okay. So bottom line, the native people that watched that, they were like, they'd ignored the comments, but they got to see the videos.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they get to believe their eyes.
Yeah. But that 12th grader, that freshman in college,
it's tough.
bombarded by this stuff. See, you and I, we're not victims anymore of it. We have to tolerate it. We deal with it. We block people. We answer them sometimes, whatever it is. But the bullying, it's the same as the Allahu Akbar call.
Yeah.
It's the same thing.
100%.
You know what I mean? It's
so
out
much.
There.
Yeah, like it's like an avalanche.
Right.
Right? Like anytime this is what really kind of was like my first real clue that this is not about Israel and it's about anti-Semitism. I made a video when I got off the plane and all it says is welcome to Israel, right? And immediately I had some idiot post a Holocaust joke, right? Like one of the supposed anti-Zionists, not anti-Semites, right? So it just goes to show you. And then I have Jewish friends that are on social media and they'll post stuff that has nothing to do with Israel. And some idiot will be like, free Palestine. I'm like, it's a Hanukkah post, right? Like they're literally posting a menorah that they lit with.
No, but they're right though. They're right. The bad guys are right. These are things that give us strength.
Oh yeah.
They're right. They want to stick a needle into the balloons.
Absolutely.
They want to pop them.
Oh yeah. If you're looking at it from their point of view, they're doing what they should be.
Exactly.
Our problem is our side doesn't.
Right.
Our problem too. Look, like we talked earlier about my friend's organization, Club Z, right? They're like that's the
high school Zionism.
Yeah, and like if you wait till university, it's too late.
Yeah,
because the first day of school in university, you're gonna get absolutely hammered. You have to have these kids prepared before that.
That's right. That's right.
So I think like groups like Club Z, there's other high school groups that are starting up now. You need that, like, because if you don't have a strong identity by the time you get to university, it's over before it starts.
That's right. And it's a war. It's a war out there.
It absolutely is.
And that's another thing that has to be prepared right now is that if you're in high school, if your kid is in Jewish high school and they're going to go next year to college, you got to tell them it's a war.
Yeah.
You're going into a war out there. The war is global.
Yeah.
Anti-Semitism, anti-Israelism, anti-Jewish identity, progressivism to try to dismantle whatever identity you have, and jihadism on top of it to try to like come down like a subjugating force.
It's scary, and I don't want to scare these kids, but I also don't want them to go into this unprepared.
Right.
Because you show up on the first day and you have some loser screaming "Free Palestine" in your face, and you've never had that before. What are you going to do?
That's right.
Right.
Ryan, I want to thank you very much for chatting with me. These are important things, and understanding them. Just understanding them gives us strength. That's one of the things that I've come to the conclusion. When you explain to people that there's a narrative war, explain to people that Israel is an indigenous Jewish people in the land of Israel, an ethnic group that is indigenous to this land that has returned and it now has national self-determination, as you say in your talks so very well. If you have a sense of and what makes up indigenous identity, if you have a sense what I call the 5 pillars of Jewish rights in the land of Israel, etc., you're more prepared. You are more prepared to fight.
100%.
I want to thank everybody for joining me. More great stuff is on the way on the Yishai Fleisher Show. Ryan Belarus, great stuff, and thanks for being with us.
Thanks for having me.
God bless you.
This is Yochanan from Germany. Don't worry. God bless you. All the best. Have a l'chaim. Yishai Fleisher will be right back.
Okay, Malka.
So smart.
He's a great guy, and
such a great person.
When we were here, when you were like working on the table, and when you heard us talking, you just like stopped and sat down to.
Because I didn't want to miss it.
Yeah, you didn't want to miss it.
I didn't want to miss it. You know, we Yishai have been fighting for our indigenous rights in the land of Israel now since we've known each other. It's really quite a long time.
Yeah.
But I can't say that I've had like so much exposure to other people from other cultures doing the same thing.
Right.
And so it's really interesting and important to me to hear from somebody like that who can relate to our story, who loves our story also, but approaches it from a very different place.
Yes, he is. He is also no doubt a Yitro-like figure. There's something
Jethro,
about him.
Yeah. Yeah, he's a special person.
Look at your eyes through. Look at your life through heaven's eyes. If you know what I'm talking about there. Anyway, Malka, when we talk about Ryan Belarus, we talk about native culture. We go back to our wise men, our chiefs, our chieftains, men and women, and the founders of our peoplehood are Abraham and Sarah, Isaac, Rebekah, Jacob, and Leah. They are buried in Hebron. But they are looking forward to your visitation and your connection. The way you do that is through hebronfund.org. It's easy. It's amazing. You'll come on tour with us. You'll connect to these places. You'll come in fearlessly and uprightly, walk into the land, and you will be connected to the founders of it all. That's hebronfund.org. You can help. You can help financially. But first and foremost, and most importantly, come and be there, connect to the land. Another great way to connect to the land is Kosher Cycle Tours. Kosher Cycle Tours will kosher and cycle and tour you. Okay, it's just that simple. The name says it all. But what it doesn't say is
summertime now. It's like a good time to get outside, get some fresh air, get the exercise.
That's right.
Make good memories.
The only thing that Kosher Cycle Tours does not say in the title is what they really are, which is professional and excellent bikes. Meaning to say
that is not a small thing.
Right. Just I would add pro Kosher Cycle Tours. They do
that's a big
it
deal.
right. They do the kosher part and the cycle and the tour part right. All the above. So check them out, koshercycletours.com. And if you're walking the good land, another way to really connect the good land in your life is to walk with the Bible. That's what I did today. My friend Yair Dan who's my media consultant / lobbyist here in Israel. He handed me his grandfather's Tanakh, which is like 100 years old.
Wow!
And so I did that on I-24. And you need your own awesome Tanakh. It should be really worn and used. And a great resource, a great Tanakh is the Israel Bible, the Israel Bible. There's a lot of Israel Bibles, but the Israel Bible is a beautiful addition to your bookshelf and to your life. It's found at theisraelbible.com. Beautiful cover, beautiful text, beautiful translation and transliteration and commentary specifically about the land of Israel. Finally, Malka, not finally, but amongst many other great folks that are part of our show is the good folks at RetroWatch, retrowatchguy.com. Those guys give you great, excellent old school watches from the 60s and 70s especially. And they just, how can I say, it's retro forward, and it makes you it gives you great time with style. And these are folks, the Retro Watch Guy folks, are making Aliyah to the land of Israel. They're thinking about how to connect even more Retro Watch story to the Israel story. For me, I wear.
If they go any more retro, we'll have to wear like sundials.
That's right, and Kova Temple. Okay, that's. Biblical Watch. Okay. RetroWatchGuy.com, of course. And try to put in, I don't remember which one is which, but put in coupon code Yishai and you shall be rewarded. Okay, Malka, we heard Brian Bellerose. And
wait, but there's one more sponsor.
There's two more sponsors.
So we're going to do them in another segment, or you want to do them now?
No, we'll do them in a second. We got to take a break, Malka.
Okay.
Take a break. People can't take so many sponsors in a row, okay? The sponsors come with the content, okay?
All
it's
right,
like,
go ahead.
It's like the medicine goes down with the I don't know why I just saw some cornflakes with strawberries in my head. Why did I see that?
What does that have to do with medicine?
I don't know. I don't know why. I just felt like I was like
do not take vitamin C with your breakfast cereal.
No.
You know that, right? Calcium is not friends with vitamin C.
I don't eat breakfast cereal.
Public service announcement.
I've stopped eating breakfast cereal. And still, though, by the way, getting older is not easy. You're just not digesting, you're just not breaking fats down the same way you used to as a young person. So struggling with that stuff as well. This
has been your Jewish ailment section of the show.
Give up. That is not a new segment, okay, of the show.
Yeah, we do this every here and there.
Yeah, from time to time. Oi, give out.
Yeah, anyway, my spleen.
Maka, we spoke
not digesting like I used to. I don't eat breakfast cereal anymore.
Yeah. You're killing me, Maka. You're killing me. You're killing me here. Okay. Maka, we spoke with Brian Bellerose, and we talked in the theory about how to talk to the world about the Israel story. I was on RT, which is Russia Today. Pretty anti-Semitic organization, really. Pretty
sad.
Pretty anti-Israel. And I knew that. I was.
Wait, is that the interview you were listening to here in the show in the house? I heard you listening. They talked about some settler march.
Yeah, this was.
I didn't hear very well because you were playing it in a different room and I didn't come in to listen. But I think I would have been they wanted to know about the Jerusalem Day Parade.
No. This is an older interview about the so-called settler march to the community in Samaria.
Aviatar.
To Aviatar. Okay. So here's a listen to how I dealt with this interview on RT, and I'll give you a little sense about how we how we try to speak with the folks. All right. So here's Yishai on RT.
For more on this, let's cross live now to Yishai Fleisher, spokesperson for the Jewish community in Hebron. Thanks so much for taking the time to join us today. Now, what is the main message that all of these Israelis taking part in the pro-settler march want to convey?
I think that they want to convey that we have every right to live in our ancestral land. We are an indigenous people in this place. We're not really settlers at all. We're really resettlers. We have come back to assert our rights, our self-determination in our ancestral homeland, and Judea and Samaria. This is the heartland of the Holy Land. This is where we're from, and this is where we're going to go. And we liberated that land in 1967, and we intend on indeed settling that land, holding on to it, developing it, and really making it into a strong Middle Eastern country, which is really a partner for Middle East peace and progress. But the prerequisite for that is the Jewish people's rights in their ancestral homeland. That's what the march was about.
And how significant is it that they were joined by Ben-Gvir, the national security minister, who openly stated that the Israeli nation is, quote, there to stay?
Well, I think that he is a leader, but he represents the will of the people. And so Minister Ben-Gvir, who I am an advisor to as well, I think stated what people want to hear, which is we intend on living in these places. This is where our literature is. This is where our history is. This is where archaeology is. This is just where the Jewish nation is from. This is the crucible of our identity, and it's almost 4,000 years old. So that's where we're going to be. And the minister was echoing that sentiment, which is really the people's sentiment.
Now, in response, the Palestinian leadership called the march a, quote, provocative move, which could lead to even more violence. Would you say that's a fair claim?
Well, I would say that they really don't need an excuse. Everything for them is provocation. The most provocative thing for the Palestinian leadership, not for every individual Palestinian, but for the Palestinian leadership, is the existence of Israel. That is just very provocative for them. It bothers them to no end since they're committed to the destruction of Israel. Again, I'm talking about the leadership, the jihadist leadership. But decent folks, decent Arabs, millions of Arabs want to see a strong Israel. And they don't side with the PA, which so many Arabs hate and see as corrupt and see as jihadist and see as regressive instead of progressive. For them, every show of Jewish strength, including the towers of Tel Aviv or worshippers in Jerusalem, that to them is provocative since they don't want to see Israel exist.
Now, when it comes to the international response here, is Israel ready to risk international condemnation for this march? And how will Israel respond to any such criticism coming its way?
Today, I'm on RT, which is Russian television, Russia Today, and I think that Russia knows very well how to stand up to international condemnation and to do what they think is right. I'm not comparing our situations. I'm just saying that sometimes nations need to stand up to other nations who think that they know better what we should do, and we've got a cabal of countries that are trying to tell Israel. A country that's 75 years old in its reincarnation, but really 3,800 years old. The world's trying to tell us, or some countries in the world want to tell us what to do. We have, on the other hand, many allies that are not telling us what to do and think that we understand our security needs and our historical needs and our claims for justice and self-determination. And so those countries let us do what we think is right. But there are countries who think they know better. And I think that viewers of Russian television know very well that sometimes people want to get in your business and tell you how to behave, and you don't always have to listen to them. You really have to do what's right and what's just, and hold up your claim.
Now, on that topic of other nations possibly thinking that they know better, some leaders at the rally also stated that Israel needs to free itself from the U.S. and Europe. What is your take on such statements, and what would this mean practically when it comes to the West Bank region?
I think that saying something that we have to free ourselves from the U.S. or Europe, it's a very broad statement. First thing, all nations should be free. They should have liberty to make their decisions. And when it comes to the U.S., there are millions and millions of people in the United States of America who are with Israel, who are good people, who believe in Jewish people's rights, who believe in our self-determination, who believe in our historic and biblical past as well. So I wouldn't say free ourselves from America. I would say free ourselves from forces in America that want to see our weakness and not our strength. Same thing for Europe. There are many countries in Europe, and in Eastern Europe, we have a lot of allies, and in other countries as well. I mean, for example, like Ireland. Ireland's not exactly a great friend of Israel, but I know many groups in Ireland that on Twitter and other places who are, standing strong with Israel. They call themselves, Irish for Israel, etc. And so we have to free ourselves from the forces that want our weakness. But of course, stay connected to those people throughout the world who cheer Israel on and see it really as a miracle and a sign of liberty and an opportunity for the Middle East to move forward.
Yishai Fleisher, the spokesperson for the Jewish community in Hebron, thanks so much for your time and input.
Thank you.
Why do I get the feeling they're not on our side?
Yeah. Well, this one was relatively fair, but I didn't see the rest of the program, which is where the real side becomes clear. Amalka, to be on our side, you got to be informed.
Okay, it's really easy not to be informed, and that's why I really recommend. I really recommend that people take the time to feed their knowledge base with good books. Okay, I always recommend to people the Stone Chumash from Art Scroll, the Pentateuch, the 5 books of Moses. I recommend the Book of Our Heritage. I recommend a few things, but I recommend 2 news sites for everybody: jns.org, jewishpress.com. They both have a little bit of a different tenor, a different focus, a different way of saying things. But if you read those 2 news sites, you shall be mentally healthy and not be sickened by the fake news, fake information, and the slanted, biased anti-Israel stuff that even comes out of Israel sometimes. I recommend jns.org. I recommend jewishpress.com, and they're both sponsors of the show.
Well, Yishai, it's about to be Jerusalem Day.
Yes, ma'am.
And as we say, they tried to kill us. We won. Let's eat.
That's right.
And I want to encourage everyone to celebrate Jerusalem Day this week with a nice big fat order from Prohibition Pickle.
That's right.
Get you some salami. Say l'chaim to Yerushalayim.
That's right.
Remember when Leah Batzion used to say that a lot when she was a little kid?
Yeah,
she
she's
used
like,
to say
l'chaim
to
Yerushalayim.
Yeah.
That's right. L'chaim Yerushalayim. That's right.
L'chaim to Yerushalayim.
L'chaim to
So
the
l'chaim
liberation.
Yerushalayim,
That's right.
everybody.
L'chaim to the
L'chaim.
liberation. What a schut malka. Our whole life is around Jerusalem. Our whole life has always been around Yerushalayim. And that's what Israel is. Israel is this this thing, and it's the heart of it all is Jerusalem. The heart is the Temple Mount, and we shall prevail. The liberation continues, and that's why I say to people that when you call Israel, when you're like, people are like, but what about the status quo? I'm just like, we are not the status quo nation. The whole thing called Israel is a revolution of liberation. And it ain't no status quo.
Movement of people.
Movement of people. Maybe you didn't hear or get the memo, okay? But we's back in the land, okay? And we are not here for your status quo, jihadi daddy, okay? We are here for revolution, return to our land, okay? So be gone, Brits, and take don't forget to jaywalk, jihadis, okay? and just take a hike, because that's not what's going on around here, okay? We are back. Status quo is not our God. Our God is a pretty, actiony, exciting God, okay? We don't worship the status quo. And so, don't tell me, what about the status quo? You mean
what about it?
You mean the thing where I don't get to pray on my Temple Mount, I don't get to have a temple, don't get to return to my land, be beaten up by the Gentiles that hate us? What? No. It's no more status quo time. Israel is a revolution. Are you part of it or not?
Yes, I am.
Are you part of it or not?
I try to be.
That's right. Amen. All right, folks. Listen, God bless you folks out there wherever you are. Lots of love, lots of blessings. Please write me an email, yishai@yishaifleisher.com. And also, buy me a cup of coffee. It's just that easy. buymeacoffee.com/Yishai. Buy Yishai a cup of coffee, for heaven's sake, literally, okay? So it's just that easy. What else, Malk? Anything else?
Well, I just wanted to say we really want to thank, we didn't have time this week on the show, but we want to thank, we got some listener email.
Yes.
This week. Maybe we can put a bookmark in it or something and bring it in for a different show.
I got a deep letter from one of the International Torah Congregation people, Gentiles, who are saying, hey, Jews, teach us some Torah. We'll talk more about that next week.
Let's hold on to that letter. We don't forget you. We read your mail.
But you know what? That's another thing that I wanted to add to the show is Yishai's tip for the International Torah Congregation out there. This week, this Thursday, which is a day early, but really Friday is Yom Yerushalayim, Jerusalem Day. It's being celebrated on Thursday here in Israel. So this Thursday, that's the celebration day. But Friday, but especially Shabbat.
This is the least clear way to talk to a Gentile that I've ever heard. It's yes. We have a holiday. It's really on Friday, but it really goes Thursday night to Friday night. But because of that, so we're celebrating it on Thursday so that we don't celebrate it on Friday.
No, it goes Friday.
Then because Friday is leading up into Shabbat, so then you can keep going into Shabbat. Got that, International Torah community?
Here's what I'm saying, folks. Good
luck. Good luck out there.
This Shabbat, I want everybody to focus on Jerusalem. That's what I'm saying. That's the message right now.
Jerusalem weekend.
It's Jerusalem weekend. That's right. The Jerusalem weekend. That's it. And so wherever you are out there, do your thing about the Jerusalem weekend. Raise your couple of chaim, get a glass of wine, hopefully from the land of Israel or something from the land of Israel, or look at the picture and just really this week say, I am connected to Yerushalayim. That is the source of, that's the heart of my religion, of my worship, my heart of my worship. And your homework is to pray towards Jerusalem. Assess in your house where the exact direction for Jerusalem is.
There are apps for that. Or just figure out, look at the map where you are and then the relative, compass direction. Get that straight in your mind, You can put a little picture up.
And put a picture of Jerusalem in that corner over there. We do that, we do that. And so it's just that simple and that easy. All right, folks, it's been a long show and a great show. Yishai Fleisher, I want to thank you so much for being with me. And I mean that in all of the ways, not just on the show today. Thank you very much. God bless you. God bless you, folks, wherever you are. Thank you to Moshe Herman, Yocheved, Tabitha, Loon We're Live, and Ben Bresky, of course, and all of you out there, and of course, God Almighty for giving us the right and the privilege to broadcast His revelation. Stay tuned, stay strong, stay connected, and shalom.